afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Live at the Waterhole. Super excited to be with you all this afternoon. My name is Maxine Gaines, and I think we're going to have a great afternoon together. Please feel free to interact with us. We'd love to hear from you. You can send through questions, comments, and just general chatter to us. You can do that via our website. You can do it, I think, on YouTube as well and on Twitter. So please do that. We would love to hear from you all. And looks like we're starting at Tembi this afternoon. Love this waterhole. I just love that magnificent Natal mahogany that kind of dominates the scene. And then the constant giants, the elephant giants, not just the Natal mahogany giant that's pretty constant, but the elephants that are constant too. It's very seldom that you onto this waterhole and don't see ellies. They just seem to always be around. You can see how the elephants have really transformed the landscape around this waterhole as well. With all the kind of holes that they've dug for sand and for mud. They've created a few craters and dongas. They really are capable of transforming landscapes if you give them the opportunities to, which many people see as a negative. Actually, if you look at their roles through the years before humans caged them in and interfered, they would have had a very important role in transforming the landscape of Africa. You can see the effort required to climb out of that hole that's been dug by the elephants over the years. A really beautiful day in northern KZN today. I always wonder what an elephant is doing when they kind of seem to stand still for so long. I would imagine they must be listening to something, where they just carefully stand still like this one in the foreground is doing, hardly moving. A little bit of a flick of the tail, but otherwise he was keeping very, very still. And I get the feeling that when they do that, they are listening to the noises of other elephants. Hi, Deb Davis from Pennsylvania. Lovely having you on board with us. Please feel free to chat. Moonbeam Smith, you say you love watching elephants. Yeah, elephantic. It is food for the soul. It really is. This group here seems to be predominantly bulls. One chap there having a really nice scratch on that tree. And you can see how with the digging that's happened over the years and the compacting of the soil around these areas where they excavate the mud and the soil, they've created these beautiful little natural pans that dry up in the winter time but are full of water in the summertime, and just such an important part of the landscape. And those natural pans then get used by various animals, birds for breeding, and warthogs and rhinos and other animals for wallowing. It's quite incredible how important these elephants are. They are architects of the landscape. A chap who's having a good scratch on the tree seems to have a bit of a damaged ear. The cartilage in his ear seems to be damaged so that the ear falls forward, which must have a huge impact on his ability to keep himself cool. It would be really interesting to do a study on that elephant and see whether he spends more time in the shade than other elephants do, or more time in the thick forest. There's a lot of really thick forest in this park, in Tembe Elephant Park. When do you say you saw two elephant bulls showing dominance to each other on Sandringham, and it looked like they were mounting each other? Why do they show dominance in that way? Many animals do that. And to be quite blunt in the way I'm going to explain it, there's normally no penetration when they do that. The penis might become erect, but that's also a dominance display. But they generally don't penetrate each other, and it's merely just a way of saying, hey, I'm stronger than you, I'm more dominant than you. So generally the one who is doing the mounting is the one who is the more dominant one. And I think we might place sexual connotations on it, but I don't think that there is any kind of sexuality involved in that kind of a display. It's just a way for one male to show another male that he's stronger. And I've seen it in lions. I've seen it with it's normally the social animals that do that kind of thing. Solitary animals, it's very rare that a solitary animal like a leopard would allow another male leopard to mount him, that, they would get into a fight with each other rather than these kind of displays, which are probably ways of avoiding fights with social animals. It's a way of saying, okay, well, I'm stronger than you, so you don't need to fight me and I don't need to fight you. And so that's probably one aspect of it, and why it is generally quite prevalent with social animals and not with solitary animals. Moonbeam Smith, you say you wonder how elephants teach their young the more eclectic things like long distance communication, things that you can't show. I suppose it's the same as us with talking. We hear it, but you can't really show talking. So the youngsters would listen to their parents communicating, to members of the herd communicating, and learn by copying. They'd probably learn that way. Yeah, interesting question. There's a lot of unknowns in there.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
My full name is Mtusi Tikani. Best part of my job is coming to see nature. Worst part of my job is logging. That's the worst thing ever, because you have to log amount of footage. You sit in front of that computer and yeah, you think of deleting the footage, but no, they need the footage. If I went to camel, probably a soccer player. I know some people don't believe me, but I'm very good, and I'm very fast.
Chidzana na tsima ra ntumbuluko Dzovukazi ya xitsundzuxo hosi ya rhumela.
How cool is this?
Picasso, you saying regarding the false mounting, females of some species do it too? Absolutely. I don't think I've ever seen an adult female do it, but I have seen it in lions. It's also quite common in, domestic dogs. I would imagine it might happen with wolves. But yes, it certainly happens in females. And again, probably just, it's normally social species, and I think it's just a dominance display, just establishing who's who in the hierarchy. Trying to figure out what those baboons are feeding on. I don't know if they're just nipping off the tops of the grass inflorescence and eating the seeds, or whether there's something else there that they are. Nathan, you say when there are that many butterflies in one area, it's a sign of a healthy ecosystem. Absolutely. It's a sign that there is a predominance of native species, obviously native vegetation species, so native plants that allow the larvae to feed on their host plants. And it's also a sign of very few pesticides in the system. So it's a combination. It's not just about the pesticides, but it's also that there's enough food available to the larvae. And that is really, really important. It's something that's changing dramatically in our world as we plant, get rid of natural vegetation and plant in our gardens and in our farms, plant foreign vegetation that these larvae aren't adapted to feeding on. So as much as possible, we need to make sure that we encourage the growth of natural vegetation, get rid of alien invasive species. That's why in a lot of game reserves, there's a big job involved in getting rid of alien invasive species, because they really do. They take up space, they outcompete the native species, and then there's less food around for insects that have evolved to eat very specific plants. Mark, you're asking if oxpeckers would ever clean the ticks off baboons. I've never once seen an oxpecker on a baboon or a monkey or any form of primate. So, yeah, as far as I'm aware, they don't. I don't think baboons would tolerate them. And you know, the baboons are very good at taking ticks off each other with their opposable thumbs and their very dexterous hands. So they probably don't need the oxpeckers as much as other animals. Sorry, I think we had a bit of a problem with that feed. So we've just gone over to Mantis Lodge, Mantis Founders Lodge in the Eastern Cape. Our ubiquitous Egyptian goose. It looks like a warthog in between the legs of those beautiful zebra there. Oh, those geese look a little bit jumpy. Seem to be looking over to the left and not very happy, but I'm not sure what's upset them. Zebra look very relaxed though, so whatever's upset the geese is not causing the zebra any alarm. Sweet little female warthog coming down for a drink or a wallow. Again, I always marvel at the differences in the pelage patterns on these zebra. You can see the one on the left with very prominent shadow stripes, and then the one on the right with hardly any shadow stripes between the black and white stripes. Martin, you said, does the direction that prey animals look towards help you when you're tracking a predator? Absolutely. Especially if you've heard those animals alarming, because if they're alarming, it means they've seen something. And they will always, always look in the direction of the predator that they've seen or that they think they've seen. So, you know, it's always important to have a good look at whatever is alarming and then use that to help you find your predator. Very peaceful scene at this waterhole. Everyone seems pretty relaxed. Although the little warthog's having a look at the camera, I wonder if the camera didn't make a bit of a noise there. Startled it. Okay, well, it seems like Aldonio's back online, so let's head over to those baboons who were very, very busy. Let's see what they are up to. So cute with all the little ones coming to the water as well. Some of those littlies will still be suckling from their mums. They're very, very young. But obviously this is an important part of the learning process. Visiting the water with mum and seeing how it's done, and probably already starting to drink and eat things other than milk. There we go. Going down for a little drink, that baby. So cute. Picasso, you say baboons are said to go through menopause and you wonder if their behavior changes in an obvious way. So that's interesting. I didn't know baboons. I know that it happens in chimpanzees. there are actually very few animals that go through menopause. And there's a species of whale, or a couple of species of whale, that go through menopause as well. And then certainly chimpanzees, obviously humans. And then I wasn't aware of it happening in baboons, so that's a very interesting comment. I'm going to have to go and do some reading. I assume it must change their behavior in a way because they're no longer reproductive, and for so much of their life, their behavior would revolve around, the duties and the functions that come with reproduction and raising of youngsters. So they probably then become, more the babysitter, the old kind of wise members of the troop that others can turn to for information. I think we underestimate how much social animals learn from the older members of a herd or a troop. They are so important in that group. It's one of the reasons why I get really angry with hunters when they say that, taking out an old elephant bull that's past its reproductive age is okay, because it's not just about breeding. These old individuals, whether it's an elephant bull or something else, have a lot to teach the youngsters about life, about where to find food, about migratory pathways. There's so many things that we don't realize, or so much information that gets passed on through the older, whether it's an older non-reproductive female or an older bull elephant, whatever it might be. Their knowledge is valuable to the members of their herd or their troop. Brian, you're asking if it's possible to purchase land within a national park or game reserve. My dream is to have a home amidst nature's beauty. It is, Brian. It's something that is becoming more and more common, not necessarily a national park. So generally you can't purchase land in a national park. You might, so that's a government-owned reserve. You might be able to get a lease to manage a concession in a place like that. But many private reserves that have dropped fences with these big game reserves. I'm thinking of the Kruger National Park as an example, but there are many other examples in Africa. So many privately owned reserves that have dropped fences will allow you to purchase a plot of land within the private reserve. So then you have your piece of land, and you've got the best of both worlds. You own a piece of land, but you've got access to that national park, or the animals. Certainly, there's no limit to what animals can come on and off your property. You might not be able to traverse everywhere, but you would have the animals getting access to your property. So that is, it's something that is done quite regularly in different parts of Africa. Wildlife Lady, you saying it must be quite hot at Aldonio today because you don't usually see baboons. Yeah, it did look like it was quite a hot day there. So the baboons needing a drink of water. I think it's pretty hot in Maputoland as well, although we are quite well into the winter months now in KwaZulu-Natal. I'm wearing a jersey today in KwaZulu-Natal, but northern Maputoland is quite warm today, I think. I love it when they do that with their legs, swaying backwards and forwards as they think through what their next move is going to be. You often see bull elephants do that with the game drive vehicles as well. If they're not sure about something, or they're not quite sure how they want to react to you.
Join me, Andrew Wistenholm, for an indescribable 6-night stay in the beautiful Albany of the Eastern Cape at Amakhala Game Reserve. Now this trip is going to be action-packed with a lot of storytelling, adventure, as well as the opportunity to make everlasting memories. We'll be exploring the best of Amakhala by staying at 2 luxury lodges, which will be the perfect blend of comfort as well as wilderness. Book your spot today and let's get ready to explore the wild beauty of Amakhala.
South Africa's wild places are closer than you think because Federal Airlines brings them to you. From the calm of our FedAir lounge to the smooth boarding of our trusted fleet, we take care of the journey so you can enjoy the adventure. Our flights go beyond the ordinary, connecting you to South Africa's most remote and extraordinary locations. Federal Airlines, your gateway to the South African wild.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a salesman, eh?
Got no idea what's going on this reserve.
Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do?
Because we have another giant of Mabula.
That was incredible.
This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
Are you ready for the adventure of a lifetime? Wild Earth Travel's newsletter is your passport to a magical journey. Explore exclusive travel options featuring special offers at stunning Wild Earth locations and all hosted by your favorite presenters. Don't miss out. Head over to our website and subscribe to the Wild Earth Travel newsletter today and stay in the know on all our unforgettable adventures. Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
Can be quite similar to what we find in Kruger. There are obviously species down here that you don't get up in Kruger, but for the most part their diets will be quite similar to the Kruger National Park. You can see that this Tembe Elephant Park has got very thick forest when you look at the vegetation behind. So you're looking at kind of coastal, almost coastal forest or sand forest in this park, and so there will definitely be some species of tree or plant that you don't get up in Kruger, but for the most part their diets are varied, very varied. So I can't say specifically what plants. It would be a very long list of plants that they feed on. Hundreds of different species. Just thinking about 2 of their favorites, the marula tree and the torchwood tree, and they love to feed on the fruits of those up in the Kruger Park, and both of those species occur down in KwaZulu-Natal as well. I think those 2 elephants in the background is it 2 elephants behind that tree? I thought I saw what looked like some mounting behavior that we were talking about earlier, or was I seeing things? I think the one bull was trying to mount the other bull. Interesting how today there don't seem to be very many nyala or impala around the waterhole. I wonder if there was a predator here earlier or something that caused them to disappear. Normally this hole is full of, well, certainly there's normally always some antelope species around. There's an African jacana in the, yes, it is an African jacana in the water there, and then obviously two Egyptian geese in the foreground. Jasper, how can you tell from an elephant female's body language that she is ready to mate? I think it would be quite difficult for humans to interpret that. Obviously, she would be giving off hormones. There we go. Here's some antelope species. Some nyala coming down. So she would be giving off hormones which would make it quite easy for the male to interpret it. And, if males harass females that aren't ready to mate, the females pick up a lot of fuss and they generally try and run away. Whereas a female that will allow herself to stand for a male, that's generally a sign that she is in estrus and wanting to mate. So it all depends on how she responds to the male, and that will give you an idea of whether the male has got the message wrong or whether she is actually in estrus and ready to mate with a male. Beautiful little group of nyala. Nyala are just such a kind of a, they're not unique to KwaZulu-Natal, certainly, but their numbers in the KwaZulu-Natal parks are just much higher than anywhere else. You're always guaranteed to see some nyala if you come to our KZN parks, or most of the KZN parks, especially the coastal ones. Very young male there with that group. He's not I wouldn't say he's a dominant male yet. He's still very young. He hasn't even changed color properly yet. He's still kind of half in between the male and the female coloration. Lenny, you're saying you love Live at the Waterhole because it's so education based. That's great to hear, Lenny. Happy to hear that. Karen, you're asking what's the plant growing in the water? There's quite a few plants growing in the water, but with the cameras, it's quite difficult to kind of get them down to species. So there's a lot of cypress reeds. That kind of yellowish plant, I'm not sure. I would need to have a clearer view of it to even hazard a guess as to what it could be. But the plants sticking up out of the water would be mainly cypress, which is kind of a reed. And then the yellow plant that's covering most of the surface of the water, I'm not sure. I need to see it in a little bit clearer, in a bit more detail to be able to identify it. Anyway, let's head over to Tau. We haven't been there yet this afternoon, so let's go and see what is happening at Tau. Oh, wow, look at this. How many crocodiles? 1, 2, 3, 4. Am I seeing all of them? 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Sure, that one moving now is really quite large. Hans, you're asking, are all algae green or do they take on different forms in different water holes? Yeah, algae don't necessarily have to be green. They can sometimes, you can get a red algae bloom, and they can have different colors. So that yellow may have been algae. It's not the most common kind of color for algae, but it's possible that it could have been a species of algae on the top of the water. Okay, I'm seeing 4 crocodiles. I thought I was seeing 5, but it's actually only 4, I think. Oh yes, I think I was counting 2 for one of the big ones. But it definitely looks like there's 4 crocodiles there. Jean Grove, you asking, is it scary to ride at night sometimes because you never know what's going to jump out of the bushes? No, most things are not going to jump out of the bushes. Most animals are either not going to react to the vehicles because they've been habituated to them, or if they do react, chances are they're going to move away rather than towards the vehicles. So the only thing you've really got to be careful of is elephants, because you might come upon them quicker than you realize because you don't see them. And they can sometimes react, trumpet at you and, flick their trunk at you or flick their heads around. And I think it just comes down to driving slowly. If you're driving slowly enough in the bush, then even if you do surprise something like an elephant, you're probably not going to give it too big a fright and it will have time to move away from you. So speed is really important when you're driving, especially at night. Interesting to see.
Every guide in Africa has been on an endless quest for the ultimate bush wear. Until now. Rugged Wear has a huge range of amazing bush gear for every wild situation. In the midday heat, those chilly winter mornings, in the storms of summer. Rugged Wear has the bush kit for every wild occasion. Locally made in South Africa, crafted with precision, stitched with quality.
My name is Takudzwa Panda Msesani. My scariest moment is when it happened twice. The other time I was with Cedric and the other time I was with Steve. And all those times, it was a black mamba. My favorite meal in camp is gonna be burger and chips.
See, the one crop there is so covered in mud that he's really difficult to see. The one kind of lying half in and half out of the water. Very, very well camouflaged. They are pretty well camouflaged anyway, but he's really well camouflaged. Yeah, some little blue wax balls in the background. Grey go-away birds calling. So there's a question on whether there's any news on the baby cheetah at the Cheetah Rehabilitation Centre. So apparently they aren't out at the moment, so nothing on the cameras for them. But if they do appear, we'll head over there. A chap who's half in and half out of the water can't make up his mind whether he's hot or cold. Very relaxing scene watching these crocodiles just snoozing. Joanna, you're asking, how do crocodiles digest their food as they eat it whole? Is opening their mouths part of this process? No, so the opening of the mouth is purely thermoregulatory. So it's to either cool them down or, well, no, it's always to cool them down generally. So what happens when they open their mouths is that there's always a bit of saliva in the mouth that lines, that is basically covering that lining of the mouth, and that lining is very richly supplied with blood vessels. Now, evaporation is a cooling process. Whenever anything evaporates, if you feel the surface that it has evaporated from, that surface will be cooler than it was before the evaporation took place. So if there's moisture on the lining of the mouth, that moisture evaporates into the air, and that cools the lining of the mouth, and that cooler lining of the mouth then cools the blood that is circulating in the mouth, and that is then transported to the rest of the body and helps to cool the body down. So the opening of the mouth is purely for thermoregulation. Digestion happens in the gut, and crocodiles, yes, they do swallow their food whole, and because of that they have incredibly strong stomach acid, very, very strong stomach acid that can digest very well things like bones and oh, sorry, there was an interesting looking bird that was moving around in the grass at the front. Oh, it's a moorhen. I thought it was possibly something else like one of the crakes, but I can see now that there's a pair of moorhens there. So yes, the digestion would be a completely separate process to that opening and closing of the mouth. But they certainly do need to have very, very strong stomach acids to digest their food, because they don't chew it at all. Little moorhens are having a bit of a tussle with each other. So Picasso, you're asking about the muscles that open a croc's mouth. So I know that the muscles responsible for closing the mouth are much, much stronger than the muscles that are responsible for opening the mouth. Because the closing of the mouth is, the process that allows them to kind of crush their prey a bit before they swallow it. Whereas the opening of the mouth is particularly weak. So it's a bit like a rubber band, I suppose you could compare it to. So a rubber, well, not compare it to it's, yeah, I'm not explaining this particularly well, but if you put a rubber band around the mouth, it would almost be enough to prevent the mouth from opening, because that's how weak the muscles are that open the mouth compared to the muscles that close the mouth. So I think when a crocodile closes its jaw, it can exert a force of about 3,000 pounds per square inch, which is incredibly, incredibly strong. Yeah, well, we're going to leave these crocodiles to laze around a bit, and we're going to head over to Victoria Falls and see what's happening at the waterhole there. Looks like we've got some impala coming down. Oh, so we were asked earlier about the cheetahs, and apparently a few of the cheetahs are out and about. So let's head over to the Cheetah Rehabilitation Centre. We'll leave our vultures that have just all taken off and go look at some cheetahs. Oh my goodness. So this is actually one of my first times to view this camera on live at the waterhole. Oh, look how cute those little ones are. So some of you probably have seen these cubs quite regularly. I'm just trying to work out how many there are. It looks like possibly 4, maybe even 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I see 4, but she looks like she's possibly cleaning.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
My name is Takudzwa Panda Msesani. I really want to film an artwork, and it has been my goal. I'll be just keeping my eyes open. The worst driver is Jen. He's driving, yeah. You gotta be holding on back in there, yeah? Like in bumps, and I mean, it happens when, these things happens when you're actually going for animals usually. But then, yeah, he's driving, yeah, you gotta put your seatbelt.
This is what they call a shambi, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
But nature is beyond amazing. Nature is just everything.
We'd love to hear from you. Questions, comments about biology, Africa, safari.
She's using her tail like a monkey.
Are not, I don't want to say as good, but there's just less available den sites in the kind of habitat that you find cheetahs in than leopards. Cheetahs tend to be in open grassy habitat, whereas leopards will often be, you know, in dongas and rivers and places where there's boulders and koppies. So much more readily available safe den sites for them. But the cheetah cubs are very vulnerable when mum moves away to feed, or to hunt, should I say. Did I count correctly? Because now I only see 2 little ones. I wonder if mum's going to nurse them for us. Okay, 3. I can see 3. So, Joanna, you're asking how long does it take for the cubs to get the full markings on their coats? So, it seems quite weird, but the full markings are actually there already. It's just that they have this kind of mane of, well, not really a mane, but they have a lot of long fur. It makes them look a little bit like a honey badger. And when that fur drops out, that's when you start to see the black markings underneath. So that longer fur is actually just almost masking the the spots that are lying underneath it. And it's only when that long fur drops out and their coats become sleeker that you start to really see the spots. But the spots are there already. They're just not as visible because of the long, almost like a long mane of fur that runs all the way from the tops of their heads down their backs. And the theory is that that makes them look like a vicious honey badger, and so potential predators might avoid them. Oh, it seems like we have some rhinos at Founders, so let's head over to Founders again in the Eastern Cape and have a look at some rhinos. Oh, wow. How amazing. From a mama cheetah with youngsters to a mama rhino with a youngster. Seems to be quite windy in the Eastern Cape today. It's often windy in the Eastern Cape. Oh, sorry, baby. You're slipping. I wonder if the little one's going to lie down in the water. Looks like he wants to. Mum's having a really long drink. White rhino are very dependent on water. They will need to drink very regularly, daily almost. Much more so than black rhinos that can go long periods of time without going to water. Have I ever seen, Nina Brown, you're asking if I've ever seen mums in the bush getting frustrated with their young when they can't keep up with the walking. I can't say that I have, no. I think mothers are generally pretty patient, and they might turn around and call. I don't know if that's necessarily a sign of frustration, but often they'll just slow their own pace to match the pace of the youngsters. I've seen that many times with many different species. Just thinking of a sighting I had with Tlalamba and Chipondo a while ago, where Tlalamba was trying to lead Chipondo somewhere, but Chipondo was being very playful. And for quite a long time, Tlalamba kind of played along, and Chipondo was pouncing at her and stalking her and lying in wait and then jumping out and pouncing on her. And Tlalamba was really, really patient. And then it got to a point where she obviously now wanted to move, but she didn't really show any signs of being impatient. She just she started moving with determination and started just calling and calling for Chipondo. So I think they do have ways of relaying urgency to their young when the young need to move. But I can't say that I've ever seen frustration. Lucky, you asking, at what age will the mother rhino walk alone without the calf? So, it really just depends. It can depend on the sex of the calf. But often a rhino calf will stay with its mother for many years before it heads off, especially if it's a female. A female white rhino will often be accompanied by a few generations of her calves. So it can be years before the calf will be independent of the mum. But that doesn't mean that they would be nursing the whole time. So, they become independent probably at 2 to 3 years of age, but female white rhinos will often stay with their mums for longer than that. Very jumpy. Oh, that's a gorgeous shot. It would have been a gorgeous shot. It was almost they were all three like a mirror image of each other. Then the one lay down to wallow. So just back to, I don't know if it's Lucky or Lucy Goody who asked that question about the rhinos. You're often, you're asking at what age will the mother walk alone without the calf. It's actually quite unusual to see an adult female white rhino on her own because of the fact that she might have progressive calves that have, that are staying with her. So it is quite unusual to see a female on her own. Generally, if you see an adult rhino walking by itself, it'll be a bull. But females will tend to be surrounded by their calves from progressive litters. I don't know if you call it a litter because it's not normally more than one, but progressive calves would be with her. Okay, we're going to go back over to the cheetah now. Apparently the mum is looking quite alert. There we go. Okay, we've definitely got 4 cubs. Oh, listen. While we were gone, she was looking quite alert, possibly in response to a bird of prey. Soneni Soko from Pretoria, South Africa, you're asking how many white rhinos there are in the world. Really difficult to say because game reserves no longer publish their numbers of white rhino because of the poaching crisis. So I have no idea. it's very, very difficult to know. I'm sure there are some people that know the answer to that, but rightly so. Game reserves that have got healthy populations of white rhino really don't want poachers to know, and so they don't publish numbers. So Kaz is saying the mom cheetah is getting angry with birds. She sat up all of a sudden, so Melanie Bazumi is saying she thinks that there was a bird of prey above the enclosure. I suppose she would be very alert. That would possibly be, I haven't been to the Hoedspruit Wildlife Centre for many years. I'm not sure whether these enclosures are closed on the top or not. Most predator enclosures with cubs would, I imagine, be closed on the top to prevent the cubs being sitting ducks and falling prey to birds of prey or raptors. Such a crisis with our wild cheetah, especially up in East Africa, where they are being taken out of the wild for the exotic pet trade. Many people, especially in the kind of Middle East, who think it's quite cool to walk around with a pet cheetah on a leash, and it's causing massive problems in cheetah conservation. And especially in East Africa, there's just a really well-established smuggling route up there through kind of Somalia and up north and into the Middle East, and it's a huge problem.
He is such a handsome young male. Look at that pose. Absolutely beautiful.
Wild Earth has launched a special fundraising drive for our non-profit, the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. We're raising funds to source, create, and showcase thousands of untold stories. Stories that spark real action in conservation and social impact. Visit our website to donate and explore how you can become a founding donor.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Most people that know me really well call me Max. I'm a mum. I have two boys. One is 16 years old and one is 14 years old. I'm a very, very proud mama of my two boys. I've just always been passionate about leopards. I'm passionate about their conservation. I'm just passionate about everything to do with leopards. I love them.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing.
Incredible.
Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7 and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. The best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
coming down in such numbers if the baboons were around. Look how magnificent they are. Even their eye, that bright kind of white eye. It's just so different. There's the red-billed buffalo weavers drinking as well. Oh, some Namakwa dove, or a Namakwa dove there. And a laughing dove. It's amazing how when the birds come, they normally come as these mixed species. Oh, that's not a laughing dove. That looks like an emerald spotted wood dove. There's a laughing dove. These mixed flocks of so many different species that come all at once. It's protection in numbers, but it's so interesting to see. These starlings are omnivores, so they will be feeding on a lot of those insects that we can see swarming around, but then also on seeds and bits of fruit and yeah, seeds and fruit from vegetation. Sorry, I think the camera froze there, so we back at Tembe. Tembe never disappoints though. Catherine, back on the cheetah conversation, you're saying it's even legal to have a pet cheetah here in Germany with hardly any regulations. Very sad. Gosh, I didn't realize that it was legal in Western Europe to keep them as pets. That is quite concerning. That chap going down onto his knees. These places where there's not just water holes, but places like this where the elephants gather sand and soil, and they're just so important socially. They are gathering places and meeting places for all the elephants. A place where they can kind of catch up on the daily news, catch up with old friends. Reminds me a little bit of the places in the Amazon where I don't know how many of you have seen pictures or videos of the macaws that go and collect mud on these kind of cliff faces or river banks, and just reminds me of that, the importance of these areas in the landscape where you have masses of the same species coming together and just sharing news and feeding together or drinking together. Very, very important places, these. And these places could tell so many stories over the years of the meetings that have taken place here. Lots of history. These focal points. And that's part of the message, you know, that well, not the message, but the teachings that these older bulls can teach the younger ones is where to find these important focal points in the landscape, these important points. And so if you eradicate all the old ones, even if they're not breeding anymore, they still have value. They have value in the population that goes beyond just passing their genes on. And that links back to the menopause and the apes and chimps, the old ladies that can still pass on information and teachings to the younger generations of chimpanzees or elephants. Oh, there's a surprise for us at El Doño. Let's go back to El Doño quickly for a surprise. Oh my word. Talking about old bulls that have value in a population that goes beyond just their ability to pass their genes on. How incredible is this bull? 1 ton. I'm just going to keep quiet for a bit and let's just enjoy the presence of this amazing animal. He seems to be more keen to spray water on himself than to drink. Often they'll drink first and then do this because they don't want to disturb the water too much before they drink. It seems the way he's waving his trunk around almost, I don't know if there's lots of biting insects or he's a little bit aggravated by something and more intent on kind of wetting his skin than actually drinking too much. He did a combination of spraying and drinking. Oh, he is a magnificent animal. Wow. He didn't stay very long. Seems to be possibly responding to this other bull that's coming down. Apparently the zoomies are saying there was something that was upsetting the elephants earlier on. He definitely seemed to respond to this bull and rather kind of move away from him. So you might find that this bull is coming into must or just a little bit aggressive, and an elephant as old as as 1 ton. He's wise. He knows to stay out of the way of these younger bulls when they are hormonal. He doesn't show clear signs of lust, but there's obviously a reason that 1 ton decided to rather avoid him. Catherine, you say that 1 ton lost a lot of condition over the last year with his infected tooth, and he still keeps touching it all the time. Shame. You wonder how much pain he must be in, or whether it's now just a habit to touch that tooth that was infected. Something like that can, that can become the beginning of the end for a big old bull like him. Difficult for an old bull like him with not very good teeth anymore to regain that condition. Wow, this boy is huge as well. He's not as big from a tusk point of view, but you can see he's in very good condition. He's got lots of meat on his bones. You can't see his kind of shoulder blades sticking out the way you could with 1 ton.
This is an unbelievable afternoon.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Best part of the job, gosh, I just love everything about guiding. I love being able to observe animal behavior and animals behaving naturally. So for me, that's by far the best part of the job. And so what we do here at Wild Earth is develop those connections with the people that are viewing, and maybe just light a little spark that says, you know what, I want to be involved in protecting this ecosystem.
Hyenas love bathing.
So we're in Kenya, approaching the end of the long rainy season at the moment. The long rainy season is from March to May, and you can see that the bush is just so green. You can still see some very kind of heavy looking clouds in the sky, and yeah, there would have been a lot of rain. In fact, many lodges closed down for those long rains because the terrain just becomes impassable. It becomes very, very difficult to take game drives and to navigate over the muddy ground during the long rains. It definitely looks like they could be getting some more rain today. Those clouds look quite promising. This chap looks almost like he's got a bit of an abscess on his upper leg there, close to, what would you call it, close to his elbow. I think he possibly disturbed One Ton's drink, so One Ton might hang around and come back again when he's done. So, as you're asking, how old is this elephant bull? You know, it's difficult to say when you're looking at a bull like this through a camera because you can't really get a clear indication of size. And I often use size to help me guesstimate an age. So you're never going to be very, very accurate with an age, but I'd say this chap is, gosh, he's probably in his 40s, early 40s maybe. He's a big boy. I know you're saying he's a beautiful elephant. He really is. He's quite a magnificent looking boy. Now he's headed off in the same direction as One Ton, so let's hope he leaves him alone. I'd love to see One Ton coming back to finish off his drink. Okay, well, we are going to go to Lentor, so we're staying in Kenya, going to head over to Lentor and look at some baboons. So lots of insects flying around this camera, not quite as much as at Aldonio, but loads and loads of butterflies. You can hear the insects buzzing in the background as well. Miranda, you are asking, you say you can hear something like bees at Aldonio and you're wondering if that could be the reason for the eddies to leave. So they do say that elephants are very aware of bees and beehives, and in fact there are many programs using bees and beehives to try and keep elephants from raiding crops and things like that. So it could be if there's an active hive somewhere at Aldonio. It might be the reason why the elephants have chosen to leave. I wonder what those baboons are alarming at. I hear them alarming at something. Oh, look at all those butterflies. So they will be gathering minerals, salts, when they land on the ground like this. Very, very critical salts and minerals that they need, that they get from the soil when the soil is moist. They can't get it when the soil is dry, so they have to wait for the soil to be moist, and then they can kind of sip up the moisture in the soil that has those dissolved minerals in it. Can't quite work out whether that's an alarm call or whether the baboon is actually kind of choking or coughing. Sounds like it could be an alarm call. It's just a bit of a strange sound. Cat fan, you say Lentor always has a lot of insects and frogs when it's the season for frogs. Oh, I love frogs. It's a fly that's there, but tricky to see. It looks like one of the pansies, but let's go back to Aldonio. I think there's another elephant that's come down for a drink, so let's head back there, still in Kenya. Oh, different elephant again. Also a bull. He definitely doesn't appear to be as big as the previous one. Now these bulls, even though it seems like they've visited separately, they might be part of a group that hangs around together. That is often the case with bull elephants. They will move in these kind of social groups together. And so what we are seeing here may not just be 3 individual elephants coming down for a drink, but actually 3 members of a social group. Especially because they've come down in quite quick succession. But within that social group, there will still be a hierarchy. And that middle elephant, not 1 ton, but the one who came in the middle, he was a big chap and a young and a healthy-looking chap. He might be the dominant bull. But that's not to say that 1 ton wouldn't be, someone that's very valued in their group and someone that, teaches them things, shows them where to find food in the different seasons, shows them, migratory pathways. There's so much that we just don't understand about these animals. Okay, we're going to go to Hwange now in Zimbabwe, so we're heading south to have a look at a stork. It is the camera in Hwange. Let's go see what's happening there. Okay, so this is a marabou stork. And he seems to be resting. So one of the zoomies was asking if this is normal behavior for storks. So I have seen marabou storks lying down before. I've also seen yellow-billed storks do it quite regularly. The fact that they lie down like this is not cause for concern. I suppose we could get concerned if he seems to be lying down for too long, especially if he's lying in the kind of exposed in the sun. That could be a reason to be concerned.
feel it is a rosetted morning for us. So yes, let's see what we can find.
Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions.
Animals rely on their senses.
Share your thoughts and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live. Every month, something wild lands in your inbox. From rare sightings and behind-the-scenes secrets to expert stories, seasonal changes, and exclusive travel opportunities, the Wild Earth Journal is your free monthly mailer, packed with the magic of the wild straight from the field. It's fun, it's free, it's full of surprises. Sign up now on the Wild Earth website.
Very stark white legs. That's actually not the case. They actually have black legs, but they defecate onto their legs, which then turns them that white color, which helps them keep cool on hot days, because black obviously absorbs the light and heats up much more than white, which reflects light. And so their legs, although they look white, are not naturally white. That is just droppings on the legs that coat the legs like paint and help the bird to keep cool. Catherine, you're saying you're currently watching a bearded vulture cam where 2 new chicks got rewilded yesterday. That's amazing. Very successful project, and you've seen vultures lie down like this but never marabou storks. Yeah, it's an unusual way for the stork to lie down. I mean, if he stays like that for an extended period of time, I would get a bit worried. At this stage, I'm still thinking maybe he's just resting. But they do normally rest the way the bird on the right is resting. Oh, there we go. Seems to be getting up. Oh, no, he seems fine. Yay! He seems fine. He was just having a little snooze. That's good. I'm glad we stuck around long enough to see him do that, because now our minds can be at ease. I don't know if any of you are like me, but if I know that there's an animal suffering somewhere, I fixate on it and I can't stand it. So nice to know that he's actually fine and all is well with his world. That difference in the coloration on the back of their wings there is just an indication of age. I think the one on the right is probably a little bit younger than the one on the left, and so hasn't got the full adult plumage yet. Oh, well, on birds, we're sticking to the birds at the moment. Let's go back to Kenya, back to Lentor, where there is a hammercorp. Oh, wow. One of my favorites as well. I just love them. They are such characters. Let's hope he's going to show us his little hammercorp shuffle. Absolutely love watching them hunting. He's hunting right now. They have many different strategies to hunt. The kind of standing very, very still, patient game, and then the walking around and shuffling your feet in the mud game. Oh, looks like there's a pair of them. Oh, now, is that just an unusual way for him to drink, or did he actually catch something there? I think he was drinking, but it was, yeah, he's drinking. It's the way he threw his head back so quickly made me think he might have caught something, but no, I think it was just drinking. Now there he looked like he may have nabbed an insect that was flying past. Oh, sweet. He's also having a little rest. Having a little lie down. But right on the edge of the water, just in case something comes close enough for him to nab it. Kaz, you're asking if I've ever seen a baby hammerkop. I actually haven't, and the reason is because they're very well kind of hidden away in the hammerkop nest. The hammerkop makes an incredible nest. A huge amalgamation of various plants and all sorts of things that they build the nest out of, and sticks and leaves, and then they have a tunnel that goes right into the center of this massive construction, and the babies are in there. So I've actually never seen a baby hammerkop. Even in all my years of doing wildlife rehab work, I don't think I ever saw a baby hammerkop. They weren't a bird that came into the rehab center very often. Lots of herons and egrets and other water birds, but I don't recall ever dealing with a hammerkop. Certainly not a baby hammerkop. Julian, you're saying that at any point yesterday there were 6 hammerkops together at Lentor. That's amazing. I suppose it could be a breeding pair with their almost adult young that you were seeing, because they are quite territorial. They can be cooperative breeders in that sometimes, there will be a group of birds that builds a nest together, but normally that would be related birds that build the nest together. And someone's asking how many eggs they can have. Kaz, anything from 3 to 9 eggs in a clutch, so quite a big clutch. I don't think that they would, be able to raise 9 to maturity, but between 3 and 9 is kind of average clutch size. So, then it makes sense that if you're seeing 6 together, you're probably looking at a breeding pair and their youngsters, and those youngsters might help them over the next few seasons to add to the nest, and so if you see 6 or 7 birds together at a nest, maybe even bringing nesting material and helping to build, it's also probably going to be that it's a breeding pair with their youngsters from a previous year. Gosh. I think that's a red-billed buffalo weaver. Okay, we are going to go over, there's a third one here now. Putting up their crests and, oh wow, some mating activity going on. That's amazing to see. So I think this is definitely the pair, and then
It's been a great morning out and about and exploring.
It's amazing. It's very hard to explain what this feels like.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
Do you want to know why impala are the most common antelope we find here in the Kruger National Park? You can ask me questions like this in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live. Connect with nature.
They might mate again. Hello, grooming. How cute is that? Oh, that is very special. Looks like he's really enjoying that attention. Amazing how precise they can be with those big beaks. So Stasi asking, have I ever seen hammerkops bringing nesting material? I actually have. I have seen. It can take years to build a nest because they keep adding to it. So they'll build the initial nest, and then over the years they add more and more and more material to the nest, which becomes quite massive, and in some cases even ends up breaking the branch of the tree that it rests in. But it can definitely take many years to build the nest. Nest fidelity is also quite high, so when they are undisturbed they will use the same nest for probably 4 or 5 years before they start to build a new one. And I suppose in that time, even though they've added to that nest, it might become either it could become full of parasites and then they need to move and build a new one, or it might just become, unwieldy and at the point where they are concerned that it might fall out of the tree, and so they will then build a new one. And there are many nests, hammerkop nests, that get used by other animals. Even beehives have been known to be, bees will come and find a hammerkop nest and make their hives in them. Gennets and bush babies and things will live inside hammerkop nests. Owls use hammerkop nests. So they are also quite important structures in the landscape. There are many species that make use of the nests when the hammerkops have left them. Amazing courtship rituals. What a beautiful sighting to have at the end of our show. When I look at this, I'm assuming that the one on the left is the male and the one on the right is the female, but you wonder whether the female also grooms the male. It looks like it's a bit of a one-way process at the moment. Just wondering whether the female will reciprocate. She is really enjoying that right now. Well, everyone, what an amazing day we've had today. Lots of varied sightings, varied species. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I think, along with One Ton, this has been my highlight of the show. But it's been absolutely wonderful having all of you with us, and hoping you're going to join me again tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow to do Live at the Waterhole with you. But in the meantime, thanks so much for spending the afternoon with me. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Have a lovely day, and see most of you tomorrow. Goodbye.